Ever heard the expression that the way to a man's heart is through his stomach? Well, we have increasing evidence that the way to your brain is through your gut, and vice versa. We've seen that the microbes in our gut are intimately connected with the health of our gut and our immune system in general. What about the connection between gut microbes and the brain? We call this connection the gut-brain axis. The brain can influence how your microbiome develops over time and the composition of that microbiome. Conversely, gut microbes can have influences on metabolism and mental health and are associated with a wide range of metabolic and mental diseases. Your gut microbes and your brain communicate back and forth throughout your life through a number of different pathways, and so there are several of these channels by which they talk to each other. So how do gut microbes get their messages to the brain? Well, there are several ways they do this. One way is that immune cells in the gut can sense bacteria in the lumen and release immune signaling molecules, also known as cytokines. Changes in the levels of these cytokines can lead to changes in brain function. Also, gut microbes can activate cells in the intestinal walls that produce peptides. So peptides are short amino acid chains, and these peptides can actually activate nerve endings. Finally, microbes can send direct messages by producing neurotransmitters, in other words, the signaling molecules that your nervous system uses, or their precursors as products of their metabolism. In other words, microbes can make chemicals that allow them to speak the brain's language. Fascinatingly, we think, so one fascinating example of this is serotonin, which you might have heard of, for example, in the context of SSRIs, like Prozac and other drugs for treating depression. It turns out that 90% of your serotonin in your body is in your gut, not in your brain. We also know that the brain and central nervous system have several different ways to communicate with microbes in your gut. Under stressful conditions, the brain will stimulate the release of corticosteroids, which affect immune cells, including the immune cells in the gut. And these can lead to changes in permeability of the gut to microbial cells. In other words, if you're stressed, the microbes in your gut can actually leak out into your bloodstream and have effects all throughout your body. And not only that, these kinds of effects can also ultimately lead to changes in which microbes are in your gut. Also, neurotransmitters have been shown to directly influence gut microbial communities. So next we'll talk a little about behavioral changes. Several different studies have shown that gut microbes can even influence the behavior of the host. We've already mentioned two of these in animals. The first of these is that gnotobiotic mice that were transplanted with microbes from an obese mouse themselves became obese and exhibited the behavior of eating more than they did prior to receiving those microbes and compared to their lean counterparts. What was fascinating about this is that we could cure them of their obesity either by administering antibiotics or by cutting off their food supply, so just putting in their cage the same amount of food that a normal mouse would eat. Another really interesting study showed that when aggressive mice were given antibiotics or probiotics to change their gut microbes, they became less aggressive. And in case you're thinking that these things only apply to mice, here's another experiment in fruit flies. And this experiment showed that flies that were raised eating sweet food, in other words, molasses, preferred to mate only with other sweet eaters, as opposed to those who were raised on a starch-based food that was considerably less sweet. It turned out that the same was true in reverse. In other words, the starch eaters preferred to mate with starch eaters. This difference in mating preference was tracked down to the presence of bacteria in both the food source and the flies. So maybe you can't catch more flies with molasses, but if you're a fly, it can help you decide who to mate with.